Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I've often been overlooked during my tours, Vice President. So I am delighted to be here today. I want to thank Condi and President and Laura and all the rest of our friends who are gathered here on this historic occasion. It's great to be back in Dallas, a city that my wife Lynn and I called home for 5 years. Flying down here yesterday, as I got to thinking about my time as a Texan, we love Dallas. We miss it sometimes. And happily, we now have another very good reason to come back often, to see America's newest presidential library and the man whose name is on it. Of course, the George W. Bush Presidential Center isn't much to look at just yet, but the workers are ready. Construction will move fast after today's groundbreaking. This may be the only shovel-ready project in America. My congratulations on the start of the center, Mr. President, as well as the success of your new memoir. The robust sales it has already had don't surprise me in the least. 2 years after your tour at the White House ended, judgments are a little more measured than they were. When times have been tough and the critics have been loud, you've always said you had faith in history's judgment, and history is beginning to come around. Ten years have passed since Governor Bush asked me to be his running mate. In the days right before that decision point, we spent some time getting to know each other better. I suppose he was taking my measure. I know I was watching him pretty closely too. There are some basic attributes you look for in a fellow who may become president. To dust off a phrase from the 2000 campaigns, I saw those traits in this guy, big time. One of the things that struck me from the beginning and that continued to impress me throughout our time in office was George Bush's refusal to put on airs. It's a happy experience and a rare one to find the most powerful person you know is among the least pretentious, that at the commanding heights a man can be so respectful of his office, so serious in his duty, and yet so unimpressed with himself. Kipling rated a fine virtue for one to walk with kings, yet keep the common touch. And nobody's ever done it quite like our 43rd president. I've seen him dealing with the various august figures who come through the Oval Office. I've seen him dealing with the folks who look after the presidential household. And it's always the same. We could all forgive a president for carrying himself with a certain expectation of privilege, but with this president, no such allowances were necessary. There were no affectations about him at all. He meets everyone as an equal, an attitude you don't expect to find in government, much less at the very top. But it's a classy way to operate, very American and wonderful to see in the Oval Office. It's also quite familiar to anyone who knows the family. He's courteous, fair-minded and kind, capable of great strength and great gentleness, and in all of this, very much his father's son. Mr. President, when you and I started our association in Austin, we knew that big responsibilities awaited us. And though, of course, we couldn't have imagined all that was to come, Somehow your life had prepared you for some of the most serious decisions any president ever had to face. When the worst came, you did your job with courage, with clarity, and with strength of heart. When I think of September 11th and the days that followed, one of the images that always come to mind is the president standing on a flattened fire truck, throwing his arm around a recovery worker and saying through a bullhorn that the people who knocked those buildings down would soon hear from all of us. Far into the future, visitors here will still see that bullhorn. When they do, I hope they'll picture the world as it was that day and realize how it was transformed in the months and years ahead. America went from being on the defense against terrorists, going on offense against them. History is always an account of what happened, but sometimes the greatest story of all is what did not happen. And because you were determined to throw back the enemy, we did not suffer another 9/11 or something even worse. I have a few more thoughts on the man and his presidency, but I'll save them when we're all back in Dallas again for the grand opening of the library. Enough for now to say that it was a privilege to serve beside him for those 8 years and a daily pleasure to share in the journey. I know that all the alums here feel just the same. I know the American people will always think highly of him because they can tell a decent, good-hearted, stand-up guy when they see one. And I know that all the Texans in this audience are ready now to lead the cheers for our friend, the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush.
I'll give you a gift.